Today, Apple unveiling a slew of new products at its first event this year. What are the new products and what new features do they offer? We'll give you a closer look. Millennials are the student debt generation, but a majority believe their loans weren't worth it. A new survey shows some depressing findings. And European banks are underestimating the risk. The central bank says they'll need to improve. That and much more coming up at NTD Business. Good evening and great to have you with us as Apple unveils a series of new products today, including new iMacs and iPads and a new product that's been years in the making.
Hello and welcome back to Apple Park for our first event of 2021.
The virtual event with the tagline Spring Loaded was held out of Apple's headquarters in Cupertino, California. The new slim iMac computers use Apple's own in-house processors as it moves away from longtime partner Intel. It also features a higher quality camera and comes in 7 colors, including purple, green. The new iPad Pro has also used Apple's own M1 chip. It's the same powerful chip used in its computers. Another new product is the long-rumored AirTag. It's a tile-like Bluetooth locator that attaches to and helps you find items like keys, wallets, laptops, even your car. They'll cost $29 each, while the iMac will start at $1,300. Apple shares have nearly doubled over the past year, faster than the NASDAQ, thanks to record sales as consumers stocked up on electronics during the pandemic. And today, Texas police serving search warrants on Tesla. They want data from a fatal crash, even after Tesla CEO Elon Musk says the car's autopilot system wasn't to blame.
Texas police will serve search warrants on Tesla Tuesday as they investigate a fatal crash near Houston over the weekend that left 2 dead. In a tweet, Tesla CEO Elon Musk rejected allegations the vehicle's driving assistance was to blame. He said company checks ruled out use of Tesla's autopilot system. But a senior police officer told Reuters evidence, including witness statements, indicated that nobody was in the driver's seat when the 2019 Tesla Model S crashed into a tree at high speed on Saturday before bursting into flames. Authorities found the bodies of 2 men in the car, one in the front passenger seat and the owner of the car in the back seat. Tesla's autopilot system has come under increasing scrutiny. It was operating in at least 3 Tesla vehicles involved in fatal U.S. crashes since 2016. The latest crash is the 28th Tesla accident to be investigated by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Stocks closed lower again today on Wall Street, led by drops in tech companies, banks. Dow dropping 256 points, about 0.75%. S&P 500 falling 28 points, 0.68%. The NASDAQ sliding 129 points, about 0.9%. Bond yields, though, falling, weighing down banks. 10-year Treasury yield falling slightly to 1.56%. United Airlines slid about 9%. It reported its 5th consecutive quarterly loss. Drug maker Abbott also falling after missing targets, but Kansas City Southern jumping 15%. It's after a Canadian railway company offered to buy it for over $33 billion, far higher than an earlier offer from another company. Get ready to pay more for some everyday products. Procter & Gamble says it'll raise prices on certain household staples from September. P&G owns top brands like Pampers, Gillette, Always. Says its price increases will vary by brand, but will be around 5 to 9%. Company COO says it's under pressure from rising raw material prices. Many experts on this show have warned that printing such large amounts of money during the pandemic would lead to weaker currency and higher prices. P&G is just the latest company to announce price hikes. Rival Kimberly-Clark says its toilet paper, tissues, diapers in North America will be more expensive from June. Coca-Cola says it'll have to do the same. P&G reported better than expected quarterly results today, though it's also keeping its sales growth target at 5 to 6%. You can now use Venmo to buy, sell, and hold Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. PayPal launching the service today on its popular Venmo app. You can buy as little as $1 of virtual currency and then use the Venmo feed to let your friends know you've bought it. They'll think you're cool. Venmo has more than 70 million customers, so you could say it's a pretty big development for the crypto community. Venmo owner PayPal, of course, already one of the most active mainstream financial companies in this space. It allows you to spend your coins at millions of merchants worldwide. The European Central Bank says EU banks are underestimating risk in their portfolios. Because banks use their own models to determine the value of assets, they've undercounted their risk-weighted assets by $330 billion, but 12% of European banks use a valuation method called mark-to-model, where they use their own internal models to value assets instead of using current market prices, i.e. they use mark-to-model instead of mark-to-market. Daniel Akaya wrote the book Escape from the Central Bank Trap. He's also the chief economist at the Tressis hedge fund with $6 billion under his management. He says the new report doesn't surprise him.
So the concept of mark to model tends to underestimate risk. Usually, when we look at, for example, the balance sheet of United States banks, what we see is that they mark to market. And therefore, when there's a big drop in valuations, you immediately see it in the earnings and in the balance sheet of the bank. In the European regulation, you have mark to model, by which the bank can evaluate the assets according to their model of what is the net present value and the true valuation of that asset. However, that can lead to important discrepancies. You and I, for example, can make a valuation of a business that we have together that may be significantly higher than what the market values it for, don't it? No? So that's one of the problems, and I think that what the ECB has noticed is that there's a consistent overvaluation of assets that leads to an underestimate of risk, to the tune of about 257 billion. That is not small, because remember that the Eurozone banks already started 2020 with about 900 billion of non-performing loans.
What are the broader implications of this underestimation?
Well, the broader implications are basically that it basically proves why, when the markets crash, European banks fall harder, and why they take longer to recover. It's basically the mark-to-model shows, or at least puts a question mark in, for example, the way in which investors look at valuation metrics like price to book value. If you look at price to book value, European banks look extremely cheap. The problem is that you have to believe the book value. And I think that most European banks have done a tremendous exercise of transparency in order to open the valuation and the balance sheet exposures so that investors are more comfortable. But you still have this difference between the mark-to-market model, the mark-to-model valuation, which can lead to important discrepancies, which is what the ECB highlights.
Daniel Akaya, Tressis, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Managing risk in Europe's banking system, and it seems in Europe's healthcare system too. Europe's drug regulator says it's found a possible link between Johnson & Johnson's CCP virus vaccine and rare blood clots, but the agency says the vaccine's benefits outweigh the risk. It says a warning, though, about unusual blood clots must be added to the vaccine's labels. This was also required for rival vaccine maker AstraZeneca. Distribution of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is currently on hold in the United States after health regulators recommended that pause to investigate those cases of rare blood clotting. Despite the challenges, though, the vaccine did bring $100 million of sales for Johnson & Johnson in the first quarter. J&J reporting earnings today beating expectations. And Arizona is banning government-mandated vaccine passports. Governor Doug Ducey issued an executive order Monday stopping state and local governments from requiring proof of vaccine to get into certain areas or get services. But the ban doesn't stop private companies from asking for it. Healthcare facilities can still ask you to provide your vaccination status. Schools, daycare centers can also require it. Arizona joins several states, though, which have placed limits on vaccine passports, including Florida, Texas, Georgia, Montana. Despite imposing the ban, Arizona's governor still wants people to get vaccinated. And as millennials become mature adults, or at least they should be, a new poll shows over half of them believe student loans weren't worth it. NTD's Colin Fredrickson reports.
A new CNBC survey showing 52% of older millennials regret taking out student loans.
I definitely feel that my student loans were not worth it, especially now that I'm $90,000 in debt.
68% of the 1,000 surveyed adults aged 33 to 40 are still paying it back.
Student debt makes me feel anxious and feel like I'm behind the eight ball because of the amount of money that's due.
Respondents on average borrowed $21,880 to pay for college. Many have had to delay buying homes and starting families.
Millennials are very challenged by student loans, partly because of the opportunities to gain income and the tougher job market, the tighter job market. It's harder for students to get in.
Degree holders are still generally better off, with higher earnings and better job security. But the debt isn't worth it for many.
Borrow the least amount that you can possibly borrow, one. And then two, when you're thinking about student loan debt, also think about what your career opportunities are beyond college and what financial position you're going to be in to be able to repay that debt.
These days, many plan on skipping college altogether. A program called Praxis helps you apprentice at a growing business with no college degree required.
We started Praxis with the goal of helping young people get, prepared for their long-term careers as soon as possible by focusing on gaining real-world experience.
The one-year program matches young adults with full-time paid apprenticeships. Over 400 people have graduated from the program so far. Colin Fredrickson, NTD News.
And pack your bags because West Virginia will pay you to move there. The governor announcing a program called Ascend West Virginia. It will pay remote workers $12,000 over 2 years if they move to the state. State promises $10,000 divided into monthly payments for the first year, followed by $2,000 paid at the end of the second year. The package also includes a year's worth of free outdoor recreation like whitewater rafting, downhill skiing. Plan's website says that's worth $20,000. To apply, you must be at least 18 years old with a full-time remote job at a company that's not located in the state. A number of cities in other states have offered similar plans to remote workers, including Tulsa, Oklahoma, a place in Mississippi. More exotic destinations like Aruba have promoted their islands as perfect locations for stay-at-home jobs. 2 Ohio senators want to strengthen domestic trade laws. Their new bill seeks to protect American workers from China's unfair trade practices. NTD's Patrick Hayden reports.
Republican Senator Rob Portman and Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown have introduced a bill to protect American workers from China's unfair trade practices. It's called the Eliminating Global Market Distortions to Protect American Jobs Act. The senators say it'll protect American workers in sectors that are important to Ohio, the state they represent. They also say it'll tackle repeat offenders and serial cheaters in trade and level the playing field for American workers. And they say it'll help block steel overcapacity that leaves steel workers and companies in the state at a competitive disadvantage. In the past decade, China's communist regime has created large state-owned enterprises in several industries like aluminum, steel and solar panels through hefty government subsidies. Former President Donald Trump tackled China's unfair trade practices by imposing tariffs on many items including steel and aluminum. That sparked the trade war between the two countries. The CEO of the Iron and Steel Institute says the new bill's a push in the right direction towards promoting fairer competition. Patrick Hayden, NTD News.
Still to come this evening. Amazon opens a one-of-a-kind hair salon. You can try out different hairstyles without getting your hair cut. And a small business owner shares his secret to growing a new business during the health crisis. What does it really come down to? That and more after this short break.
Do you have a life insurance policy you no longer need? Now you can sell your policy, even a term policy, for an immediate cash payment. Call Coventry Direct to learn more.
We thought we had planned carefully for our retirement.
But we quickly realized we needed a way to supplement our income.
Our friends sold their policy to help pay their medical bills. And that got me thinking. Maybe selling our policy could help with our retirement.
I was skeptical, so I did some research and called Coventry Direct. They explained life insurance is a valuable asset that can be sold.
We learned we could sell all of our policy or keep part of it with no future payments. Who knew? We sold our policy. Now we can relax and enjoy our retirement as we had planned.
If you have $100,000 or more of life insurance, you may qualify to sell your policy. Don't cancel or let your policy lapse without finding out what it's worth. Visit CoventryDirect.com to find out if your policy qualifies, or call 1-800-509-8500. Coventry Direct, redefining insurance.
Put the keys down, Kevin.
But I'm gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
My text to emoji ratio has gotten a little out of hand.
A little?
Yep, I'm definitely gonna call a ride home.
I felt accomplished after I got my diploma. Made me feel that I could take on whatever challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Taco Bell wants to give its sauce packets a second life. The fast food chain says it's working on a recycling pilot program. The company claims more than 8 billion sauce packets are used in the U.S. every year. It hasn't released any specific details about how the new program will work, but says customer participation will be easy and shipping will be free. The company is partnering with recycling company TerraCycle. It collects traditionally non-recyclable materials, then cleans, melts, and remolds them into plastic that can be used to make new recycled products. It's worked with big companies like Procter & Gamble, Unilever, and Nestle, and the program is slated to be launched later this year. One startup is taking on a bold new ambition. It wants to help combat U.S. housing shortages by putting its industrial 3D printers to work. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the story.
3D printing can seemingly build almost anything from the ground up. The process uses autonomous machines to create three-dimensional objects. That's by depositing thin layers of material following digital blueprints. In recent years, 3D printers have been used to produce everything from toys and auto parts to artificial organs and prosthetic limbs. But one startup has a different vision in mind. It aims to use 3D printers, industrial robots, and other technology to help address severe housing shortages.
So what we've done is with 3D printing, we're able to print exactly what we need, so it's effectively zero waste construction, meaning we're eliminating the 3 to 5 pounds per square foot that goes to landfill in a traditional build, which adds up to about 2 to 3 tons of carbon per unit.
In Mighty Building's factory warehouse in Oakland, a 3D printer deposits layers of a white substance onto a base. It quickly hardens under ultraviolet light into a lightweight material that's heat and water resistant. The printer can produce the entire exterior shell of a studio home or individual wall panels that can be easily assembled by hand.
So what we're trying to do is take those really dangerous, difficult parts and hand them to the printer and the robots, and really leverage the humans for the parts that make sense for humans to do, those detail works, the things that robots and computers can't actually do.
Mighty Buildings is now focused on backyard studios and single-family homes, but has plans to produce townhouses and multi-story apartment buildings in the future. To achieve those goals, 3D printing construction firms will need to significantly ramp up production.
Additionally, we're lowering labor hours by about 90% per unit, but at the end of the day, we're actually hoping to create more work by increasing the productivity by as much as 20 times, and also helping address the fact that we don't have enough skilled labor to build all the housing we need.
They'll also have to persuade home buyers, developers, and regulators that they're safe, well-built, and aesthetically pleasing. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
And Amazon is opening its own hair salon. Before you get too excited, there are a couple of caveats. It's in London, and it's only for employees for now. The point of the new salon is to try out new technology like an augmented reality app that shows you what your hair would look like before you even get it cut. The house built by Bezos has no plans to open additional salon locations, but the company does plan to open it up to the public in a few weeks. The pandemic lockdown has made life hard for many small business owners. While some businesses have shut down, others have actually thrived. A local Washington State farmer tells us how his business not only survived, but actually grew in these difficult times.
Andrew Miller is the CEO of Tulip Town. He and his new business are welcoming their second Tulip Festival this April in Mount Vernon, Washington. Business couldn't be better.
The season is going really, really well. Now we're really excited. We've sold over 75,000 tickets so far for this season, and it's been phenomenal.
Miller is one of the major tulip growers in Washington. He expects a big increase in revenue this year.
Oh, I bet we double that before the end of the season. I would be surprised if we don't see 150,000 people out here this year, which would be 50,000 people more than any other year.
Miller decided to leave a high-tech job to move back to his hometown. That's because he sees great potential in growing tulips.
I'm absolutely certain that agriculture is a part of the future of Skagit Valley. And so we chose to purchase Tulip Town because tulips are iconic for Skagit Valley.
Then something unexpected happened.
And then we ran into the COVID-19, which hit us hard, very hard, 95% of our revenue, in a way just like that.
But Miller, the former Amazon crisis manager and an Air Force intelligence officer, knows how to handle crises.
And we really focused on ways that we could connect our customers and our guests virtually, and ways that we could export tulips, which we never had to do before. So we sold tulips online.
Miller also sells photography passes. He offers visitors a more immersive experience through different innovative measures.
So I think the most innovative that we have done from an operational perspective is in the field, where we designed the field this year so that people could get out closer to the flowers. On the technical side, of course, we have really leaned into the online ticketing and advertising via social media, which of course we had done before.
Miller not only accepted donations, but also donated the tulips to hospitals, nursing homes, and memory care facilities. As Miller says, it's not about the tulips or business, it's always about the people.
If I were to boil my business model and the mission of our farm is to connect. It's to connect people. It brings people together. It connects them to nature. It connects them to themselves. But the one thing that they have in common is a connection.
Coming into the summer, you might be anxious to travel. But if you plan to take a trip, experts say travel insurance may be the way to go. Andy Geither has more.
Planning a trip, but want to make sure you're covered in case of cancellation?
Travel insurance can give consumers peace of mind.
The Better Business Bureau says travel insurance can protect your purchase against potential canceled flights or changed itineraries, but a warning, not all policies will cover cancellations for a health scare or bad weather, but some of what's typically covered includes trip cancellation or delay, lost or stolen luggage, emergency medical assistance, and coverage for rental cars.
You want to carefully read the language that is in your coverage policy. You want to find out if you're covered in case of illness or theft, and if the coverage changes if you travel internationally. This is especially important if you or those who you're traveling with have health conditions.
The Insurance Information Institute says to expect to pay between 5 to 7% of the cost of your trip, and before you buy, do your research on the company.
You want to make sure you look for things like possible complaints and reviews.
And before buying travel insurance, know the difference between insurance and a cancellation waiver. While waivers provide some trip cancellation protection, they generally include more restrictions. I'm Mandy Gaither.
You can also look into your existing insurance policies to find out what coverage your health car insurance companies offer. You can do the same with your homeowners, even rental insurance providers. That's the latest business updates for today. You can still catch NTD Evening News with Stephanie Cox at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. For NTD Business, that's all for today. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
have a new channel. Subscribe to us on YouTube at NTD News. Get the highlights of our news broadcast and the most important headlines that we curate especially for you.
Don't miss out on important news. Our videos are being deleted. So if you don't want to be cut off from honest news, take a moment to sign up for our newsletter at newsletter.ntd.com so you don't lose access to NTD. Go to newsletter.ntd.com to sign up for our evening newsletter.